You can stay in the file called Control Geometry Export, and if you open the palette called Enscape Assets Plant Type, I want to show how a related product, an add-in, could help you manage the data that you have on assets and make it much simpler for you to add useful data to the, for example, this example, Enscape Assets. So just remember Enscape Assets in this library, and I was only looking at the vegetation. There's 1,299 plants, and they're all planting family, even although they don't represent just planting families. They can be, if I scroll down a bit more quickly here to the bottom, they could be plants in containers. They could be rocks. And also, if you look at the plants themselves, they could be aquatic, they could be succulents, they could be for containers or pots, they could be hedges, they can be, forbs, lots of different information that you might want to have so you can search and find them. What is shown here is useful, but this is not inside Revit, so it couldn't appear in schedules or it couldn't appear on tags. The label inside that tag can't be telling you, for example, the botanical name or its origin. Is it native? Is it exotic? Because none of the data, even shown here, is in the actual plant. So this is useful to help find things, but the vegetation is a little bit different from these other settings here, where pretty much you're making a visual selection of the object that you want. And here it might be that you want to have some search criteria to say what is native to the local area, USDA zone 12, and provides habitat for native fauna. Something performative and not just the visual aesthetics of choosing a plant. And this is not going to help too much with that. It's very basic, and it doesn't often make sense. For example, if I say it's a bush, well, I wouldn't refer to these as bushes, and I certainly wouldn't refer to the ferns as bushes. The categorization could be better, but there's still an advantage in having the data inside Revit for reports. So what I want you to see here is I placed every one of the 1,200 or so plants or vegetation assets in here. And if I zoom in on this a little bit, if I pick any of these, I'm going to pick something that is named. So this is data I've already entered, but if I pick like Festuca glauca, if I click under Edit Type for that one plant, all of these are data fields or parameters that I can add values for. So I can see it's not native to the United States, it's a grass, this is its botanical name, common name. You can think of lots of examples of data that you might want to attach to other Revit objects. Here I've got medicinal, USDA zone, relationship to pollinating insects, birds, use in medicine, all the rest of it. But it will be a list that will be custom and you can create it. The problem comes when you look at the data, and you can either enter the data directly on the plant itself. So this would be painful, but possible. I could do this, pick this plant. I could say Edit Type. I could come to any of those value fields and opposite the parameter, I could go in here. I'll do this and change it just so you can see if I do this. These would be examples of botanical names that I've already entered, so I could pick from that list because it adds to the list as I add things. Or I could type in what I want. And I could do it in here, and then I would have to say, let me do something like say, I could enter a value, or I could pick from a list of items that I've already entered under that parameter. So let me get out of here. A slightly faster way to do this might be in Revit to have a schedule. So for example, if I go down to my data delivered Enscape, if I open that schedule, I can have any fields for data. So this is, my beginning list of fields that I might want. And then this is the ones brought over here that I want to see in the schedule. What's the Enscape name? Now, if I wanted to do this in Revit, it doesn't have the basic features of a spreadsheet. For example, this horsetail feather, I know it's a grass here. I don't know its botanical name. If I, let's say this is Equisetum arvense. Equisetum arvense, right? So that's going to give me this message, and I need to say, yes, I know you're applying it to every one of those plants in my database. In this case, the Enscape assets. And if I have another place where I have the same information, I either have to click on it, look at a list. I'm going to say EQ to get to that quickly, but it's going to do that every time I want to change the data in here. Now just look for a second. I've got 1,200 plants that I had to go through and type this in for every one of these fields. If they're blank, it's because I don't know what the botanical name is and haven't entered it yet. 1,200 data fields, and I don't have the spreadsheet capability of, say, picking this yucca and dragging it up to say, well, all of these are yucca, or copy and paste from one field to another. I can't really do that easily inside Revit. So what I want to show you is this is the schedule called Data Delivered Enscape. I can go to Ideate software. I can say, I want my BIM model to be linked to a spreadsheet, BIMLink. The easy way for me to do it, it's so easy, is to say that I want a new link. I can pick from schedules. My schedule was called Data Delivered Enscape. And all of these parameters are type parameters. Like every separate asset will have the same type data, which is what I've got here. So I can say that's what I want. Next, it's showing me the parameters added. It's telling me, because I said it was type parameters I was interested in, that it's finished creating the data, and it's not including any type parameter. It's not including any instance parameters. Like each plants of the same species might be at different locations. That would be an example of an instance parameter. The same Enscape asset could be in multiple locations, so that would be an example of an instance parameter. It gives me the dialog box. I can say there's other types of parameter I can take out. I'm only interested in the project ones from my schedule. I can say, okay, make it, and then I can say export it. I can save it. I've got the same one there already. I'm just saying overwrite the one that's there. Now, even someone who doesn't know Revit can open that spreadsheet, and then I can bring it in. So I can open it up just to look at it. The point that I'm trying to make here is, say, for these things, I don't really know what they are. So I could click on that field and just copy this down. What is it? Right? Let me go down to the bottom so for example here, what I was trying to say was, instead of me clicking and getting a message and clicking again, in here I can be using the power of a spreadsheet to make this. To make those changes, I'll save it. I'll close it. And now if you watch the bottom here, and I'll say import data from here. I spent hours making individual changes that this is letting me make the changes immediately, right, in my spreadsheet. And I can have somebody who's knowledgeable in whatever's being tracked, but not knowledgeable about Revit, put the data in, and all I have to do is just bring in the spreadsheet data. That could have been for every parameter on every plant, which would have saved me so much time. So if I close this view, I'm going to show the next step, which is that I could actually use data that I add to manage the visibility of the objects, and to use filters to find the plants that meet certain criteria.